Okay, you guys are on time. You might be the only one, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. If people come over, they can. Yeah, so first up, I just want to say thanks for coming. I know that this is new for ESA this year to give the exhibitors a chance to kind of talk about their story and what they do. There's only a few people here, so feel welcome to ask questions in the middle of the presentation or engage with me. That's more than okay. Today I'm just going to talk about kind of twofold facet about what we do at Macroscopic Solutions. The first is just going to be a little bit of background about how the company got started, the different solutions that we offer, what they do, and then the second is going to be a little bit more focused on an up-and-coming technique, which is photogrammetry. We have a lot of interest in 3D photogrammetry today for machine learning applications. AI is being programmed constantly within the last 2-3 years. And in order to program AI, it requires very, very high quality images and data in order to accurately sort of draw conclusions or make decisions. So let me just go ahead and get started with the background a little bit. When I was still in high school, I had the benefit of having a neighbor who was a hobby photographer. I also liked photography myself. And he worked for the U.S. Army Health Command in Aberdeen, in the Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland. And his job was to take high-resolution images of vectors, specifically ticks and mosquitoes. So what they were doing was cataloging the various species at that time. This was probably going back to 2007 in his work. Me just liking the technology and him being a mentor and also having patented the technology, it just sort of followed in his footsteps and went on to pursue my studies in the geosciences. I became a structural geologist at Indiana University of Pennsylvania, went on to do my master's at UConn. But early on, I was using photogrammetry and photomacrography to look at basically indications or look for evidence of earthquakes in samples that were collected from Taiwan. And we were able to do this without having to create a thin section, which is a much, much more intensive analytical process because of the sample preparation that's required. So being able to look at rock samples at macro or micro scale just by taking a photo was really advantageous. And way back then in 2007, this was the system that we were using. So we were just getting started with milling and machining. We had prototyped a manually driven focus stacking system that allowed us to mount a specimen and then photograph it. This in particular, when I was at IUP, presented my undergraduate research project, and a biologist walking by liked it so much that he decided to buy the technology for his own lab, which was a great market validation where they were tracking and looking at the development of fungi. So one fungi on the left side of a petri dish is the natural fungus is Rhizobacteria solani, and the one on the right would be a mutant. And what would happen is it would transmit a virus when they would connect and then kill the opposing virus. And this was important because this particular virus affects potatoes and rice crops, so it was very important for agricultural purposes. So all of these images really were made possible at the time through a technique which is called focus stacking. And I'm sure everybody in here is very familiar with it, but I will, of course, just share with you what it is. Focus stacking is when you take several photographs with a very, very narrow depth of field through a subject, and you stitch the images together so that the final result is something that is fully in focus. So like the head of this fly, this is basically an aggregate of images all the way through the hairs and face, and the result is something that is fully in focus. So following my master's, I had the opportunity to go on and do a PhD. I also was being recruited by ExxonMobil at the time. They had sent me off to the Bighorn Basin to do field work. But there was also a business model competition at UConn that allowed student teams to present business model ideas. And that's how the company, Macroscopic Solutions, really got started, because we ended up winning that competition and then commercializing the system. So the way that I wanted to commercialize the system as a geoscientist is a field-capable tool, a tool that you can take on an airplane to your field location. You can use it to photograph your field sites, your outcrops, your locations, samples in the field, and then be able to bring it back to the lab and use that same tool to reconfigure it for imaging in the lab. Not just a simple photograph, but high-end microscopy as well. So this is the technology as it exists today. We have various different stages and components that are given to you to help you with a diverse sample group or diverse sample set. Right now, we actually have this set up over at the booth. Feel welcome to go take a look. But we have a light dome that goes all the way around the sample for really, really uniform reflected light, which also bounces off of a lens-mounted diffuser to reproject onto your sample a really, really soft form of illumination. To give you an idea of our optical capabilities, so we give you all of the lenses so that if you're in the field, you could take images of birds, you could take images of the landscape, and then you can take images of samples all the way down to 1 millimeter if you wish. On the other end, we also allow you other objectives. So we provide you with a 2x, 5x, 7.5, 10, 20, 50, and 100x objective by Mitutoyo, which is paired to one of those telephoto lenses, which allows you to resolve details quite small. So this one in particular, this is a 5 millimeter ruler, and at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5x, each of those machine lines is 100 microns apart. So we're resolving about 100 microns of detail at 5x magnification, and then with the added objectives, we're starting to resolve details down to 2 microns in color. So this is something that if you have a sample in a university, you might already be taking the sample over to your SEM technician to scan it, but this at 50x and 100x, you can get pretty comparable images optically, but going any further beyond this is going to be physically impossible. In terms of what we're able to do with light, we are at the physical speed limit, it seems. So now I just have some great imagery just to share with you. This is just an emerald ash borer. It's a fully contextual image. We have the entire sample here, but then also utilizing the micro kit. This is some examples of the microstructures on the abdomen and the wing of that emerald ash borer that we're able to capture. Since this product was released, me being a geoscientist started to release newer products. I have this over here as well. This is our petrographic analyzer. We just released a new model for 2024. It allows you to hold slides in thin sections. So now you can use transmitted light, reflected light, or a combination of the two to photograph slides as well with the DSLR system. We also have cross polarization built into it. So if you set a second polarizer above a slide and rotate it to 90 degrees, it also is very diagnostic for mineral identification and rock type identification for the geosciences. Early on, the reason for building this, Jason Dombrowski at Cornell University is a customer, and he was imaging Lepidoptera genitalia at that time. After that, largely in collaboration with this meeting, there was a gentleman here, Charles Mazel, who I'm sure many of you have met, who sold fluorescence filters. So we started to implement his filters into our system, which gave us really, really great fluorescent results of autofluorescence. So this is just an image through the leaf of a fern. So you're visualizing the stomata. All of the red that you're seeing in here is chlorophyll within the cells. And also in earth sciences, this is corundum. So it's essentially a ruby, and it also autofluoresces red. And it also has significant advantages in biological research. This is a GFP stained mouse embryo where they are mapping out the circulatory system in genetically altered mice. Next, we created a drill core system. So this allows geoscientists to digitally recreate images of ice core, rock core, soil core at the macro level. So this is not only focus stacking individual frames, it is also panning down core to create a very high resolution image for digitization purposes and just regular analysis. Also, we've been playing around a lot with hyperspectral cameras lately. So that's allowing us to actually take advantage of other wavelengths that we're not able to see or visualize optically or with our own eyes. It's very, very important for geochemical analysis in soil cores. After that, largely through another meeting, this was the American Geophysical Union, I ended up meeting Alexander Stein, who really liked the drill core system, but it wasn't quite suitable for his needs. He needed to get much smaller. The images he needed to do were not just the cells within tree rings of trees, but he's doing computer modeling and computer analysis for AI generation, but by actually looking at the cell wall thickness. So we had to get really small through an entire section of tree core. So with this system, we can actually go from bark to bark the entire way through a tree and visualize every single ring and also the cells within those rings. So that was a pretty hard system to build because it required so much precision at 20 and 50x magnification to be able to do all of that stitching and mapping. But all in all, to capture an image like this, you're still looking at something that probably would have taken several days down to about 5 hours of automated image capture. Most recently, there was a request to put on a system that would also scan insect boxes, whole boxes, and soil samples. So there's a lot of geoscientists we work with that are taking, basically boxes of soil, and they're measuring them. So we have the macro box now, which is a 3-axis automated system which can move the box and move the camera and also perform focus stacking. And if you're curious how this works, we also have a YouTube channel where every single step, every single part, we keep our systems modular. If you have the know-how to do this, you can certainly try and build one yourself. Otherwise, we're here for you to give you a complete package. But our YouTube channel is a great resource for people with a variety of skills showing how these systems work. And this is just an example of a full image that's been captured with the MacroCore system. Okay, so now most recently, people are really buzzing about 3D photogrammetry, no pun intended. This is the Big B project. This was spearheaded by Katja Seltman, who gave a talk earlier this morning, where they are digitizing over 1 million bees, and I think 3D modeling well over 1,000 bee samples for programming and machine learning purposes to specifically identify and analyze the hairs on these bees. So Katja wanted me to share this today. This is something that they have in preprint right now, but this is basically how they're capturing the data and how they're feeding this data into AI models in order to, basically perform studies for hair percentages. And really, she said that AI confirmed what we already knew, which is that in desert environments or dry environments, bees are typically more hairy than when they are in wetter or more humid environments. But it was a great validation and also a very low failure rate for these images to be programmed to AI and confirm what we knew. So we developed an entire workflow, which we now share with all of our customers. These workflows are also available online. It's a resource to you on our forum at our website. And this allows you to take these high-resolution images and also build your own 3D models. So we have a publication that's been in draft for a little while where we are focusing on 2 specimens, Apis mellifera because it's a little bit larger and hairy, and then also Halictus tripartitus, which is more metallic and also still hairy. But we figured these would be 2 great proxies because this is a smaller bee butted against a large bee, and we're going to 3D model the 2. They both have somewhat varying characteristics. So again, the workflow and the imaging process is laid out in various protocols that are now shared by Big B Group. If you do not know how to use a camera or you haven't had much experience, all of the input that you would put into your camera is already pre-thought out for you. So you just pick a magnification and you just follow the table, and that'll be all of your camera settings for image capture. For image capture, what we're using is EOS utility. This is the Canon utility that allows you to remotely drive the camera via a computer. And what you're going to be doing is, of course, we're capturing a packet for focus stacking. So we're going to be focusing on the back of the specimen and then the front of the specimen and capturing a series of images through the sample. After that, we're going to rotate the specimen 5 degrees, and we're going to continue to repeat that process until we have a full 360 rendering around the bee. The next step is to use something called FolderAx on Microsoft. FolderAx allows you to rapidly sort of cleave the directory files into multiple subfolders. So it saves the time and the headache of dragging number of images that were in one set of focus stack into another folder. So here, you'll take the directory where you stored all of those images. You'll basically program the number of images that you captured per stack, and then you will have divided all of your perspectives out into these subfolders. The next step is to then batch stack them. So we use Serene Stacker for that. You'll feed all of those folders into this program, and then you're going to focus stack each individual focal plane until you have a fully in focus rendering. You do have the ability to batch edit. There's not a lot of editing that is required, but you do want to make sure that any hotspots or glare are fully removed. We sort of have all of that figured out in our light diffusion method, so it shouldn't be too heavy, but in case you do need any editing, you can apply edits to one single image in Photoshop and then use a program like Scripts in order to apply those edits to the rest of the remaining images. So once that's done, the next step is to actually pull your images into Agisoft Metashape. This is the 3D modeling software that allows you to triangulate points. So Agisoft Metashape, Macroscopic Solutions, we're the North American reseller for this program. the first step, and this is actually becoming less important today than it used to be because there have been significant updates in the program, but you would mask out the background and create a silhouette around the insect, which is used to compute the output 3D model. Once you have all of your masking complete, the first step is to actually perform an alignment. So this alignment is then going to position where you captured the photo relative to your specimen around that 360 sphere, and then it's going to start to generate a very low dense point cloud, which you can then use to make sure that the accuracy of the alignment is good enough to complete a model. After you have that, there used to be a method where you would create a dense point cloud and clean it up. It was very time intensive, but we've been working with Metashape a lot. They have now created a stereo projection method which totally eliminates that process, and now you can go directly to a mesh using stereo 3D models. So the next step here is to actually triangulate that mesh. So this is going to give you your point cloud STL. But what's really unique about and then there are other techniques you can do. So, for example, the program, you're 3D modeling something that in some cases is completely planar, like a wing or an antenna. So you can tweak basically the amount of smoothing that goes in the model to make sure that those holes are filled in. So there is a little bit of a refinement process that you do have that capability in the professional version to access. But also because we're not using lasers to scan our subject, we can recreate and overlay texture. So at the last step, we can finally texturize the model, add color, and then get a very, very accurate representation of the sample that we were just scanning. Last step, of course, is to save. You can save this as a TIFF, JPEG, OBJ file, STL file, any 3D output. And then you can further refine these models in other programs. This one is, I think it's Mesh Mixer or Blender. There's a couple of these are all freeware. They're very powerful software programs, but they are difficult to use. So again, it's great to refer to YouTube to know what you need to do, but you can basically refine these models based on the accuracy of the specimen if there are any gaps in the data where you need to fix those. So in here, I think we used Blender in order to fix a hole in a wing, and then we brought it back into Metashape in order to present that model. After that, you have complete measurement capabilities. So you can now measure, do all of your intertecular measurements. You can measure wings, antennas, relative bee sizes, and just basic morphometric measurements and volumetric measurements within this program. It's quite powerful for measuring applications. So that's kind of the complete walkthrough on how you would go about building a 3D model from focus stacked imagery. In case you do want more information or just a follow-along tutorial, this is our YouTube channel. All of these protocols, methods, they're all published and available for you to utilize in the future. Sorry if some people are taking some pictures. I'll leave that up for a second so you can grab that. Yep. Something that's been kind of exciting coming out of this, just in September, Polaris Dawn launched in space, and we've been working with the United States Air Force. They tried every 3D modeling application under the sun to get 3D models of roots inside a gel agar inside cuvettes. And to further complicate this problem, these cuvettes are not optically pure. They're not glass because you can't send glass to space. They're made of plastic. But what was kind of interesting is they sent us a cuvette. This is actually it on the left, and we were able to get a model of the root structure within about 8 hours of taking a look at it, which was pretty neat. And it's a tricky thing to do because every time you rotate something that's planar and has a solution inside of it, it's going to reproject the image inside. There's going to be an optical shift. So the roots are actually being reprojected in a different location. So it was also a great validation into the accuracy of this software that we were even able to do this. So since then, we've been working with Metashape to refine and build various different models for different institutions. And I do just want to thank the collaboration that I've had with NSF and some of the institutions around here, Big B, and everybody that's been involved on that project and the Parasite Tracker project before that. So that is my presentation. If anybody has any questions, feel welcome to ask me. And if anybody would like to see the technology in person, I'm over there in the center of the exhibit hall. Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah. The whole system for just the macropod is $40,000. And we keep it modular so that if there are components that you do not need, you can deduct the price of those. The micro kit it encompasses about 16,000 of the price tag. So most people, I usually tell them they don't need the 100 and the 50x. That will actually pull about $6,000 off the price tag immediately. Yeah. I'm sorry? Yeah, so I've been using Canon since day one. We just have a great relationship with Canon now and our other vendors. So yeah, through me, if you want the full support package, it's going to be Canon. But if you have Nikon or anything else like that, you can just refer to our YouTube channel for part sourcing, or just source the other parts that you need from me as well. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think I heard everything. It's hard to hear you over there, but sorry, you say it one more. No, no, not. I mean, there are free trial versions. Zareen Stacker, the professional price is $289. Agisoft Metashape, you can also access a free trial for 2 weeks. It's $2,500 for the professional version, but are you in academia? If, yeah, okay. If you're in academia, you get an educational discount. It comes down to $549. Yep. No, everything is included. Yeah, literally, you won't need anything else. Yeah. Yep.
From you talking about it, it sounds like you need a PhD to be able to take a picture. So, is this something that someone who is not old school photographer has done basic photography?
Mm-hmm.
How hard is it to learn to use the thing?
Yeah, so I do come with the package. So you can always just zoom in, or you can actually have me come to your location to train. So it's more boutique, the business, in that sense. However, I usually give people that option, but I tell them not to buy it right away, because our YouTube videos are pretty instructional. Usually, even if you've never touched a camera, you'd probably be up and running and have your first image within 2 hours. And after that, the process would become very intuitive. You'd be repeating and pumping out images one every 5 minutes and so forth. Yeah. Tom, did you have a question? It poses a danger to the astronauts. If it breaks in a zero gravity environment, they don't know how to recapture it. And we actually had an issue because the light box, when it was going up, it actually short circuited. And that was also very dangerous. If you remember, yeah, Apollo 5, where all the yeah, exactly. So really oxygen rich environment, you can't have any heat. So they're still very restricted about what you can take into space. Yeah. Okay, is that good? All right, well, thank you guys for attending. That was very nice of you to stop by and listen to me speak. If you do have any questions, I'll be in the center of the exhibit hall.